There's a place where being okay seems to be just okay. There's a desolate place where you'll be tempted to set up camp and never climb your mountain. Never see that horizon, your promised land beneath. But there's a voice calling in the desert, calling you on. There's a spirit that's awakening the souls that are yet undone. There's a breath from God breathing life to dry bones. There's a spark looking for a heart ready to be set on fire. From discouraged to motivated, from indifference to zeal, from complacence to passion, from delusionment to taking hold of what's real. There's a fork in the road, a place of decision. There's a mind to be made, so what will it be? Will you answer the call? Will you pack up or go home? Are you ready for the challenge? What will it be? I'll grow up to grow up, reject passivity, embrace resistance. I'm a warrior in training. Don't speak normal, think normal, don't feel normal or be normal. I don't want anything in my life to ever be normal. There's one way to get tough. Do the things that don't come easy so that you can become what you would never become. Will you stir up the passion? Will you fan the flame? Will you wake up your soul? Get yourself back in the game. You know you've been hit. You may be cast down, but the Lord is your strength. He's the one with the ground. So pour fuel on the embers. Set fire in my bones. Spirit of God, burn in my soul as I get fired up. Get fired up. I have passion. I'm awakened. I've got fire in my bones. My history doesn't define me. Destiny is mine for the taking. I won't be held back. God is with me. God is for me. I won't be afraid. I won't back down. God, I put my hands in your hands. I'm letting you spark the flame. Let's get fired up. Get fired up. Get fired up. Let's go. Y'all ready? Put your hand over your heart, and if you're a guest with us, the words are on the screen. Let's make some declarations. I am who God says I am, a child of God, the righteousness of God. I am the apple of God's eye. I am God's workmanship, created for good works, and I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me. Today I open up my mind to receive the word of God so I can think like God, be like God, and do life the way God intended for me to live. Let's lift up hands. Say this with me. Come, Holy Spirit, help me elevate my thinking so I can elevate my life in Jesus' name. Amen. Come on, are y'all ready? Are you ready for the word? Hey, love on somebody. Tell them you're glad they're sitting next to you. They're looking good. So glad you're here. So honored you're here. Thank you for watching online. Thank you for watching on television. Thank you guys for being a part of this experience this weekend. In the sports world, particularly football, this weekend would be called an audible. For those of you that don't know what that means, I had a great message planned today, I thought. It was going to be called Fight Fire with Fire, and it'll have to be next week. And by the way, you'll get next week's notes, and it'll have today's date on them. Because yesterday, the Holy Spirit really was doing a work, really the day before yesterday, all week long. It's been very much of a time of soul searching for me in particular. Pastor Sheila and I had the privilege this last weekend to go to what's called an ARC conference, A-R-C, Association of Related Churches. And for those of you that don't know, we're very much a part of that. And what that means is that we, this year, as a part of ARC, that we will actually help plant over 150 churches around the world this year. So thank you for your giving. Already by April, over 60 churches in America have been planted.
And anyway, we're a part of that, and we're very much a part of that. And anyway, I've got many, many friends that are a part of this network, and it was just a profound time for me personally. One of my friends, Chris Hodges, in fact, a few years ago, we went to the Church of Highlands and did one of their first men's conferences they'd ever done there. It's one of the largest churches in America. Don't even know how many locations. Josh, how many locations do they have? 16 locations around just in Alabama. And anyway, he spoke a message that really resonated with me and challenged me to the core and caused me to do what we call around here an AAP, assess, address, and progress. And really for me, it was a self-assessment, it was a self-addressing, it was a self-progressing few days for me. And I came home, and Whitney and Clay right now are living with us. Clay was the worship leader that was up here a minute ago. And then Whitney, those of you that don't know, is my daughter, and she's my last born. And they're living with us while their house is being finished. They're in transition. And so with our two granddaughters, that Clay and Whitney are going to leave, and they're going to leave the granddaughters with us. And I'm just so excited about that. And they don't know that yet, so don't tell them. But Whitney came into my room, and Whitney's like oxygen to me. She's one of the people, there are different people that really, I call them oxygen in my life because they breathe life back into me. And Whitney's one of those people, and all my kids are in different ways. But, you know, some of you who are parents, you'll know what I'm talking about when I say, if you've got more than one child, if anything were ever to happen to you, you know which one of your children would take care of you. So that's what I know. Josh would make sure I had a pretty nurse. Not just a nurse, but a pretty nurse. And then Keela would just send checks and text. Say, Dad, I hope you're feeling well today. I don't really have time to talk on the phone, but you're awesome. And but Whitney would be changing my diapers, and I don't know. I hope that never has to happen. But in fact, I won't let it happen in Jesus' name. But anyway, Whitney came into the room where I was, and just in her wonderful way, just said, Dad, what's going on? What's happening? So I started talking to her, and she said, people need to hear that. And I said, Whitney, I don't want to tell people that. She goes, no, Dad, listen to me. People need to hear that. So I had such a great message for you today. And that'll have to wait till next week. Because today I want to open myself up in a way in front of you that I never have before. That's why I'm sitting down. And I want to talk to you about defeating kings to be the man and woman of God that you could be. I shared this in our warrior breakfast this weekend. And men, if you're here and you were part of that, you're going to have to hear it again, because I thought I was just going to share it there. And Whitney / the Holy Spirit said, no, that message is for everyone, not just for the men. So here we go. Defeating kings to be the man of God that God's called you to be. I want to just give you this thought. You're not a conqueror until you've conquered. And God has called you to be a more than a conqueror. So if it's okay, I'm just going to open up a little bit to you. Is that all right, everybody? And if you're a guest with us and you want to hear me preach sometime, please come back. Joshua, the first chapter. Moses he'd been the assigned leader of the children of Israel after a 400-year exile out from under the covering of God. And God promised that he was going to lead his people into a promised land. And so Moses actually died before they came into the promised land, but he was the transitional leader. He was the leader from 400 years in exile to 40 years in the desert on a horse with no name. And what was supposed to take an 11-day journey ended up taking 40 plus years. And God did not let him lead them into the promised land, but prepared the people. And then Joshua came. Moses had 2 sons, but you never hear about his sons because his sons chose not to follow their father Moses. And in fact, they didn't even follow God. And so God raised up a son of choice. That's why we talk about family of origin and family of choice here, because it's all in Scripture. And Moses' son of choice was Joshua. And let me kind of just up front say this, that this is not to put anybody in a box, but just in terms of leadership, there's two basic types of leaders in the world. And by the way, you're all a leader here. Let me say that again. You're all a leader here. If you don't think you're a leader, you're the one that has to get you up in the morning. That's where it starts. You have to lead yourself. When you can lead yourself well, you're qualified to lead one other person. When you can lead one other person well, you're qualified to lead a team. When you can lead a team, you can lead an organization. When you can lead an organization, you have the potential to leave a legacy. So we call that 5-dimensional leadership. But I want to just say that everybody in the room is either a situational leader, which is what Moses was, or you are a natural-born leader. And there's a lot of people that don't believe people have natural-born leadership gifts, but I'm telling you, it's the truth. And Moses was a situational leader. He was the kind of leader that he didn't really want to lead, but God chose him to lead. And he was trying to do it all by himself. And finally, his father-in-law, Jethro, came to him and said, "You're going to kill yourself. You need to find some people." He appointed 70 elders, and they began to help him lead. He was a situational leader. The situation demanded that he become a leader. If you didn't want to be a leader, you never should have gotten married. If you don't want to be a leader, you never should have had children. If you don't want to be a leader, you should never become a part of a team. If you don't want to be a leader, you should never want to make a lot of money. If you don't want to be a leader, in other words, if you don't want to buy into leadership, then what happens in your life is you find yourself in situations, in circumstances, with people that either want to be great followers so they can be great leaders, because there is no great leader without being a great follower. So you got to choose who you're going to follow well so that you can be a great leader. And if you don't follow well, you don't get to lead well, and that's the truth. But you have Moses who, at one point, the Bible says that as long as his arms were raised, the battle was won. He got tired. He sat down on a rock and said, "Guys, look, I'm exhausted. We're not going to win if your arms aren't going to be raised. Look, I'm tired." So Aaron got on one side and Hur got on the other side, and they held up his arms. That's the kind of leader he was. It's like he had to have people around him that, "Look, I'm tired. I don't really feel like doing this. Okay, we're going to hold your arms up for you." That's a situational leader. Situational leaders have to know when to lead. Natural-born leaders have to know when not to lead. Situational leaders have to know when to speak. Natural-born leaders have to know when not to speak. And it's very difficult for you to know your reason, know your season, know your room, know your audience, know who you're doing life with, know who the leader is in the room, and submit to that process. On and on I could go. But there's situational leaders and they're natural-born leaders. I knew early that I was a leader. I didn't understand it all. I just can give you a few stories, but one of the stories was, you heard me talk about my mama. She was my mother's mother, and she was the greatest influence in my life. She's the one that prayed me back to life. And eventually, she's going to be the one that we name our chapel that we're going to build out here after her. And it's going to be awesome. But my father also had a mother, and she was my granny, and I called her my granny, and I've never really talked about my granny because, again, it was just a very different situation. My dad came from very dysfunctional background, didn't know who his father was really for a long time. And my granny had she had a glass eye, and then she couldn't see very well out of her other eye. And when I would go visit them, which I did every summer in Muskogee, Oklahoma, they lived in the poorest part of Muskogee, Oklahoma. I'm talking about, I never ate government food until I went there. There was government cheese, government peanut butter. That you don't know this if you've never eaten government peanut butter. It doesn't taste like Peter Pan peanut butter. And I couldn't figure that out. Like, what is this? Anyway, and I would go there, and it was like a different world. It was a different world. It was absolute poverty. And so I can remember one time we'd go to the park to have fun and go to the public swimming pool, and she had like this 63 station wagon. I don't know what it was, but it was a beast. And so anyway, I don't even know how old she was, but she was close to 80 then. And again, she couldn't see very good out of her one eye. And so she'd be driving us around. I was like, oh my goodness. And so we're at this park, and she thought I'd gotten in the back. I don't even know how old I was. I wasn't 10 yet. I know that. and she thought I'd closed the door, but I hadn't closed the door, and she kicked the car in reverse, and the edge of the door stuck in the ground. I go, Granny, wait. She didn't say anything. She kept backing up, and it broke the door off of the car. I mean, just broke the door off. And she goes, oh my goodness, what was that sound? I said, that's the door on the ground. You just broke the door off of the car. And so she goes, well, can you pick it up? I go, no, I can't pick it up. And so I had to find some people to help us pick up the door and put it in the back of anyway, it was crazy. But part of the way I knew I was a leader, there was a lot of different things, but I would go there by myself. I'd get on a bus by myself. I'd ride to Muskogee, Oklahoma from Dallas by myself, and I'd go there as a little boy, be on a bus by myself. And I remember we had a Chihuahua dog, and I'd take a Chihuahua dog in this little barn, and the dog, it had a little barn door on it, and the dog's head would come out of the barn. They wouldn't let you travel with animals at that time. There was no comfort animals. And so anyway, so I had this little barn I carried, and I had a little dog inside it, and had to, anyway, for 3.5 hours, make it be quiet. But when we would come into Dallas, she would drive me back. This is just an example. And we'd get to downtown Dallas, she'd go, okay, which way do we go? And all I can tell you is, as a little boy, I was able to navigate. It was the craziest thing. It's like, go down this road, take a ride here, go down this road. And we would get home, and I knew early that I had some kind of gift to be able to see and to be able to navigate and to be able to help people navigate. It was just the weirdest thing. There's many other examples that I could tell you, but anyway, nonetheless, as a leader, and this is where I want to just kind of unveil myself to you a little bit today. As a leader, and knowing that I have a gift of leadership, I've always tried to be strong. And I've always tried to be physically strong. I've always tried to be emotionally strong. I've always tried to be spiritually strong. And because of that, oftentimes I come across strong. And with that said, I'm going to lay that down as a premise. And I want to go to this transition of Joshua, the natural-born leader, taking over from the situational leader, Moses, and God speaking to Joshua. And we pick up the story in Joshua 1, verse 5. God speaks to Joshua and says, no one will be able to stand against you as long as you live. Joshua's going, yes. For I will be with you as I was with Moses. Yes. I will not fail you or abandon you. Yes. This is great, God. Yes. And then all of a sudden he says this, be strong and courageous. Now, I don't know why God would feel a need to tell a natural-born leader why they need to be strong and be courageous, but God knew something was up that Joshua didn't know was up. Joshua was the one that said, it's for me and my house, we will serve the Lord. Joshua was the one, along with Caleb, that in Numbers, the 13th chapter, said, hey, we can take that mountain. We are well able to take that mountain. Let's go take that mountain. He was one of the 2 spies that brought back a good report, and yet he had to wait 40 years to go take that mountain. So here's this natural-born leader, and God said, I'm going to be with you. I'll never abandon you. But hey, by the way, be strong and be courageous. Courage, most of you know, is not the absence of fear, but it's taking action in the face of fear. So God says, be strong and courageous, for you are the one who will lead these people to possess all the land I swore to their ancestors that I would give them. And then he says it again. But this time he says it stronger. Be strong and very courageous. Be careful to obey all the instructions that Moses gave you. Do not deviate from them, turning either to the right or to the left. And then here's what he says. Then you will be successful in everything you do. I want to just ask you a question. How many of you want to be successful in everything you do? Like not just a successful marriage, not just a successful family, but a successful business, successful financially, success in everything that you do. So look what God says to Joshua. Study this book continually. Meditate on it day and night, so you will be sure to obey everything written in it. Only then, everybody say only then. Only then will you prosper and succeed in all you do. So I'm going to ask you a question one more time. How many of you want to prosper and succeed in all you do? Okay, so God says, then after all of that, this is my command. He says it again. Now, I'm thinking as a natural-born leader, and Joshua's probably thinking, why does God keep saying to me, be strong and courageous? I am strong and courageous. Why does he keep telling me, be strong and very courageous? Face your fear, take action. Why is he saying that? And then he says this, do not be afraid. Look, I got this, God, I'm a strong leader. Do not be afraid or discouraged. Why are you saying that? You're with me. You're not going to abandon me. If God is for me, who can be against me? And then God says, be strong and be courageous. Be strong and very courageous. Study this book. I'm giving you a word that I'll never leave you or forsake you, but study this book. Get this book in your heart. And by the way, don't be discouraged and don't be afraid. I got it, God. Okay, you've said it 3 times. Joshua 1, verse 11. He gives him instruction. He says, go through the camp and tell the people to get their provisions ready. In 3 days, you will cross the Jordan and take possession of your land that the Lord God has given you. Okay, guys, listen. I know Moses, all of us went through a lot with Moses, right? We all went through a lot with Moses. I mean, some even had to hold up his arms. I mean, he would get tired. He didn't want to lead. He had some kind of speech impediment. Nobody knew. Aaron even had to speak for him. But I am Joshua. I am here. I am ready. God's given me a word. 3 days. We're going into the promised land. Are you guys ready? Finally, it's going to happen. 400 years in exile, 40 years in the desert. But guys, in 3 days, we're going. Then Joshua called Reuben, Gad, and the half-tribe of Manasseh. And I won't go into all this. I'll just simply say this. He called these 3 together, and here's why. Here's what he said. Remember that Moses, the servant of the Lord, commanded you. The Lord your God is giving you a place to rest. He's already given you his land. In other words, they already had their possession of the promised land. Only Reuben, Gad, and the half-tribe of Manasseh. He said, but there's something that I need you to do. Your wives and your children and your livestock may remain here in the land that Moses has assigned to you on the east side of Jordan, but your strong warriors, you're fully armed, must lead the other tribes across Jordan to help them conquer their territory. So Reuben, listen to me. It's not enough that you have a great job. It's not enough that you got your 4 and no more. It's not enough that you're getting all you can and all you get, that you don't have to worry about it. The bottom line is, you need to help everybody else get theirs. You know why we have small groups? So everybody can help everybody get theirs. You know why we do servant leadership here? So everybody can help everybody get theirs. I want you guys that have already got your possession, you're already on your way, you're already strong, you're fully armed, you're strong warriors. Now I want you to go help other people get theirs. And look at this. Stay with them until the Lord gives them rest, as he has given you rest, until they too possess the land that the Lord God is giving them. Only then may you return and settle here on the east side and just chill. Because you're a part of this tribe. And even though Reuben, you got your tribe, Gad, you got your tribe, Manasseh, you got your tribe, now I want you to take the strongest of who you are and go help the other 9 tribes get what God's promised them to get. Everybody look at me. You cannot do life by yourself. Here's what's so profound. Fast forward to Joshua, the 12th chapter. These are the kings of the land whom the children of Israel defeated and whose land they possessed on the other side of Jordan. This is the bummer part. Everybody listen to what I'm telling you right now. God says to Joshua, Joshua, I'll never abandon you. Thank you, Lord. I'm going to be with you wherever you go. Thank you, Lord. My hand is going to be upon you. Thank you, Lord. But hey, by the way, be strong and be courageous. Of course. No, I'm going to say it again. Be strong and very courageous. I got it. No, be strong and very courageous, and don't be afraid and don't be discouraged. Why would God tell him that when he's saying in 3 days you're going across to the promise that 40 years you got? What should have taken 11 days has taken 40 years, but you're at the precipice. And by the way, Reuben, Gad, and Manasseh, let's all go across. Let's go help people get it. In 3 days, we're going to cross, y'all. Come on. We're going into our harvest. Some people say, this is the year of the harvest. You know what harvest means? It means you're going to work your butt off harder than you've ever worked. That's what it means. It doesn't mean, oh, the harvest is coming. Every farmer here knows when the harvest comes, you work harder than any other time. Not like, hey, the year of harvest, it's coming. 3 days, we're going over into the promised land. So we get to Joshua 12, 11 chapters later. These are the kings of the land whom the children of Israel defeated. Oh, why did he not need to be discouraged or be afraid? Why did he need to be strong and be very courageous? Because between Joshua 1, when God said, I'll be with you and never leave you, but also you got to get into the word, you got to meditate on it day and night. Only then will you be prosperous and successful. You can't just go on a word. You got to get in the word. You got to know the word. You got in your tribes. You got to get into your study groups. Everybody's got to learn the word. You got to be here for your marriage on Wednesday nights. And you got to understand that if you've got a great marriage, you say, I don't need to come to a marriage class on Wednesday night. Then you need to be a mentor, Gad, Reuben, and Manasseh. Why? Because people need your help. If you've got a good marriage, people are waiting for you in this tribe for you to help them. Well, I don't need to go to a financial class, but there's some people in the financial class that needs your help because you've already got it, but they need your help in this tribe. And so you go to the class, you become a part of a small group, you become a part of a servant leadership team. Why? Not so much because you need it, although you do, but in this tribe because everybody needs you. Everybody needs you. I want you to meet a major friend of mine, 20 years with the Army. Ernest, oh, stand up, Ernest, Major Ernest. Served our country as a major for 20 years. Thank you. I'll go ahead and be seated. As a major, the most men in a 20-year period that he had command over was 1,000 men. Ernesto, his name's Ernest, but Ernesto, major in the U.S. Army, discovered that he had kidney disease. None of the 1,000 men that he led had a kidney to give him. None of his upline in the Army had a kidney to give him. The VA hospital didn't have a kidney to give him. He came to Elevate Life Church from El Paso. He was with my dear friend Charles Neiman, was in that church there. And he comes and he starts to be an usher greeter, starts to serve on a team. He's got kidney disease. And a single mom who's on that same team came to him and said, I wonder if I gave you a kidney, if I'd be a match. I want Deborah to stand up. Deborah, stand up. Now, y'all be seated, but Deborah, you and Ernest stand up. You start serving on the team together. This single mom says, I don't have a lot of money, but I've got a kidney. Because he doesn't need a lot of money. You know what he needs? He needs life. He's a part of Elevate Life Tribe. There was just one big problem with Deborah being a single mom. Just to even qualify to get tested to see if her kidney would work for Ernest, she had to go through 3 different batteries of tests that cost a lot of money. She didn't have the money. Her team said, on the usher greeter team, we'll take care of those tests so you can see if you can qualify. Now listen very carefully. 20 years in the military, leading 1,000 men, and over a 20-year period, thousands of men. Upline captains, and what do they call them above you? Colonels and generals. But he comes to the Elevate Life Tribe. And when he's at his greatest point of need, because he's serving, listen very carefully, not because he came on Sunday, not because he showed up on Saturday night, watch this, but because he was doing life with people, serving God. Reuben, you and Gad and Manasseh, you've got your health. You've got your money. You've got your, would you help some people in the tribe? Would you like be involved in the tribe and leave your comfort zone and go help them? I'm happy to tell you, she qualified. May 15th, he gets her kidney. Is that powerful? Is that powerful? Can we just give God thanks? God, thank you that what we need is in the house. What we need is in the tribe. What we need is in the kingdom. Go ahead and be seated. I don't know what you need. Right now, you may not need much, but you might need a kidney in the future. You don't call the church and say, hey, I need a kidney. And we send out an email. Anybody want to give a kidney? There's somebody in our church that needs a kidney. It's the same thing for money. It's the same thing for your electric bill. It's the same thing when you run into problems. It's the same thing when you lose your job. The way people lead around here is if you're plugged in and you're leading with other people. I promise you, let me rewind. I promise you, let me rewind. I promise you that the need will be met on that team. I promise you. I didn't come here to tell you that. I came to talk to you about some kings that are in my life. You see, by the time you get to Joshua 12, what God did not tell Joshua, he said, I'm going to be with you. I'm never going to abandon you. But be strong and courageous. Hey, get into this word. I'm giving you a word. I'll never leave you or forsake you. But don't be discouraged and don't be afraid, but get into this word. Study this word, because only then, everybody say only then are you going to prosper and succeed in all you do. What God failed to tell Joshua and what he's not going to tell you is that between now and whatever promises there are in your future, in Joshua 12, we discover there's 31 kings that had to be defeated along the way. In other words, it wasn't just, hey guys, listen, 3 days from now we're going over the promised land. God's got a great future for me. I know his thoughts towards me are good and not evil, to give me a future, a hope, and expected end. I can't wait till it gets better. I can't wait till everything goes up. I can't wait till God, you've got so much in store for me. Yeah, but there's just these kings in the middle. There's some rulers that you're going to have to fight. So here we go. I'm going to take off my coat because that's what I'm doing. Here's my kings that I have to defeat. And I want to be real with you. The first one is insignificance. I struggle with insignificance. It's different than insecurity. You see, insecurity is when you don't feel like you got it. Insignificance is when you feel like you've got it, but it doesn't really matter. Why would I struggle with insignificance? I've never thought about it much, but I was a middle kid. Any middle kids here? When you're the kid in the middle, you're not the first and you're not the last. In my family, I wasn't the first boy, and the last was a girl, so she was the first girl. I never had a problem with it. I thought, hey, that's cool, that's awesome. But I was told my whole life, Keith, really, here's the real truth is, and it was said in jest and it was kind of funny, but you were an accident. I struggle with insignificance because I suffocated to this as a little boy, and some of you know this story, and I don't talk about this part of it very much, but one of the things that the doctor said was going to be a for sure is that I would have brain damage. And so I've always joked about it in my life that, hey, I'm not the sharpest knife in the drawer. I look back now and I remember my mom time after time after time coming into my room going, Keith, let's pray. And I go, okay, Mom, what do you want to pray about? She goes, wisdom for you. Okay. She says, I want you to ask God for wisdom. So I would. I go, because the Bible says, Keith, the Bible says that if you ask God for wisdom, he'll give it to you liberally, and he'll be able to help you differentiate what's good and evil and what's good and best. So let's pray for wisdom. So my mom taught me to pray for wisdom, and I look back now, and here was the diagnosis. He was dead. His brain was without oxygen for an hour. Yeah, it's a miracle he came back to life, but he's going to be slow to speak, and I didn't speak till I was 3. Didn't say a word. We don't know what all is happening up there. And by the way, I'm 57, and just know, I don't know. But I know I'm not the sharpest knife in the drawer. In high school, I was called Mr. Inside, Mr. Outside. It was, it was pretty cool, I guess. Nobody had ever played athletics in my family, and I decided basketball, and so became pretty good at it. And so senior year, 29 points a game, 12 rebounds. And in Louisiana, that was pretty good at that time. And So they called me Mr. Inside and Outside because as a white boy, I could dunk on you on the inside, and as a white boy, I could do a three-point on you on the outside. And so I went to college on a basketball scholarship and got the first 4-year scholarship that the college that I went to had ever given. And the first day I was there, the coach looked at me and said, I know you got the first 4-year scholarship that we've ever given here, but you're not that big a deal. And I said, I know that. I know I've got to prove myself. And he benched me my freshman year, my sophomore year, my junior year to show me that I'm not that big of a deal. I remember in practice, I thought that's going to be my game. And so we would do sprints, we'd do suicide drills. Some of y'all know what that is. And I would determine I was going to come in first, and I did. I would determine I was going to make my practice my play, and I did. And yet, I was benched. And Mr. Inside, Mr. Outside was no more. I had no college career. I was dating this girl that I really did like, and I liked her from the first time I saw her. And yet, there was just pushback, and the pushback was finally came to a head when we were about 6 years into our relationship, and we were now in college together. And I won't go into every detail, but I want to share this with you because I want you to understand some of my insignificance issues. I had a meeting that I was called to with her mother and her 2 sisters, and her mother looked at me and said, Keith, you know, I think you're a great guy, but you're not good enough for my daughter. And I remember looking at her mom because the way it was is like we would go out to dinner. I'd go out to dinner with their family, and what would be said is, hey, you're on your own, and everybody else would be paid for. Again, there's nothing in my heart with this. I just want you to understand why I struggle with some insignificance. There'd be a family picture, and hey, don't be in the family picture because this is just our family. And I remember that day looking at her mom and saying, I was 19 or 20, and I said, what do you want for your daughter? Because I don't know what you want for your daughter. We're virgins right now. So far. I said, I don't smoke. I've never drank. We don't party. I love God. And she looked at me, her mother looked at me and said, I think you're great. I just don't think you're good enough for my daughter. Fast forward 2 years later when we were getting married. And you know, marriage is supposed to be a happy time, and it was. And VHS, our videographer, is going around. Everybody's going, man, 8.5 years, that's amazing. Congratulations. And then it got to Sheila's parents. And they looked in the camera, and then they looked at each other, and then they looked back, and they said, well, you guys are doomed for each other, so we hope you make it. That was their wedding greeting for us. I don't look at that and think how horrible. I look at that and I go, whatever dream, whatever ideal they had for their daughter, I wasn't that. No matter how I perceive myself to be, I wasn't that. And we're way down the road past that now, but I just want you to understand, that's in me. My first 7 jobs I was fired from. Wow. I don't know how I have any self-confidence, but I do. I'll just tell you one story. It's one story in 2 scenarios. I was a youth pastor, and I've been a youth pastor for a year, and I thought things were going great, you know. People were growing, our youth group was growing. And so Sheila and I get married, and we go on our honeymoon, and I get back from our honeymoon. The day we get back from our honeymoon, like during that time, all of our dreams were coming true. Because I told her when I asked her to marry me, and we waited a year, I said, I want to wait a year because I want to build our first house, which we did that. I want to go to Hawaii on our honeymoon, which we did that. I said, I want to have $15,000 in the bank, and we did that. And so everything's clipping along, everything's going good. We're both in our careers. She's a teacher, I'm in the ministry. And the day we get back from our honeymoon, we just spent the first day, just moved in before we went on our honeymoon into the house that we'd built. And now we're going to actually sleep in our own house that we bought together the first night. And the pastor calls me in. Now, let me give you some context. This pastor had been an associate pastor in a church where I grew up. He knew me, I knew him, I knew his family. He knew my family. He loved me, I loved him. So I thought he was going to say, hey, how'd your honeymoon go? And we were just going to chat it up, you know. And I walk in and he's crying. And I looked at him and I said, what's wrong? And he said, Keith, sit down. I said, okay. He said, I love you like a son. I said, I know, I feel that. Thank you. I thought, this is so moving. And he said, but we're going to have to let you go. He said, and these are his exact words. He said, the board has decided that they want a babysitter for the youth and just for their youth to be able to play games. And you're trying to do leadership stuff, and nobody wants that. They don't want your leadership. And I remember at 23, looking across his desk, and he looked at me and he goes, this is tearing my heart out, Keith, because I really do love you. I believe in you. He said, I promise you, you're going to come back and thank me someday. And 1 year later, I did. I thanked him. But again, that was one of the 7 jobs that I was fired from. I didn't think I would ever be a pastor. I waited till I was 40 years old. I did a lot of stuff in business and ministered with my team, Strike Force. But people would say, are you going to pastor? And I said, I'm not sure I'm that size foot that fits in that shoe. And when I was 40, it was just so obvious that God was sending us to Frisco. So I said, I think I'm supposed to pastor. Maybe I'm mature enough. Maybe at 40, I can do it. Maybe I can fit into that mode. You see, I've got some great pastors. I was just on the phone yesterday with Joel Osteen, and I'm going down there on May 8th to Lakewood. He and I are going to do a video together. And we, as you know, we help support Night of Hope, and he's just precious. He said, I want you to be on my radio show that day. I said, thank you, Joel. Joel, I'm always honored. And I'm starting a new series after this series called The Favor of God, which we launched that in 2007. And 10 years later, God's given me a word. And it all started at Lakewood Church at the Compaq Center. Before it was the Lakewood Church, God spoke to me and threw me a ball of favor. And some of you know that story. And we're going to do that after this series. And so gracious, so wonderful. And then I was just at ARC with some of my friends, and they're just so precious. They're just wonderful people. And here's the truth. I'm a good guy. I think I'm a good leader, but I don't think I'm a good pastor. No, listen, I don't think I'm a good pastor. I don't think that. And so I have great people around me. I have Mark and Leif and David, and I try to find the best people in Greg and you know, but I just don't think that I'm that great a pastor. And so I think in my mind, you know, God, you put this, like you've given me this assignment, but I just want you, I want you guys to know that I struggle with insignificance. I struggle with, does it matter? I just want to be vulnerable. I want to be honest with you. Another thing I struggle with is temptation. I'm not going to tell you all my temptations because you judge me. But believe it or not, I'm tempted. And there's a lot of things I'm tempted with. And I think about Jesus' temptation, and I think about Luke 4 after he'd fasted for 40 days and 40 nights. And the devil comes and he says, if you are the Son of God. So he's challenging his significance. He goes, if you really are who you say you are, then turn these stones into bread. So I'm going to ask you guys the question. Was Jesus tempted with bread? I mean, was the bread, is sex the temptation? Is drugs the temptation? Is, you know, whatever your temptation is alcohol the temptation? Because we want to name stuff that we're tempted by. But was bread a temptation for Jesus? Well, somebody says, well, yeah, if he was hungry. No, but it was bigger than that. And here's what Jesus did. You remember, he said, a man shall not live by bread alone, but by every word that proceeds out of the mouth of God. So he takes him to a high pinnacle of the temple. He says, hey, if you really are the Son of God, cast yourself down. God will give his angels charge concerning you. And this is where, like I said, I know I wouldn't make a good Jesus. I'm not a very good pastor, but I really would make a good Jesus. God, I go, devil, you know what? I'm gonna kick your butt right now. You're not even, but he didn't do that. He said, thou shalt not tempt the Lord thy God. And then he takes him up and shows him all the kingdoms of the world, the glory of them. And he says, if you really are the Son of God, then bow down and worship me. And some people think that the devil was saying, hey, bow down and worship me. But here is temptation in a capsule. An encapsulation of temptation is this. Anything you put before God is before God. The temptation of Christ was the same temptation I have and the same temptation you have. And what is that temptation? To settle for less than what God has for me. So I want you to hear my heart. I know why the devil hates me. He hates my guts. You know why he hates my guts? Because I strive to be strong. I project strength. I strive to be strong physically. I strive to be strong emotionally. I strive to be strong physically. I strive to be strong financially. I strive to be strong relationally. And it's not because I'm all that, but listen to me. It's because in my striving to be strong, the devil hates that I want to be strong. And so he fights me in my strength. And when I'm up here and as your leader and as your pastor and as the father of this house, when I'm projecting strength and when I'm just going there, and even when I'm showing my arms in a short sleeve shirt, somebody can say, look, he's just showing his arms. Why didn't he cover those things up? Because the sun's out, it's guns out. No, but here's the thing. I'm joking. That was a joke. Here's my point. I don't want to hide my strength. Listen to me. I don't want to hide my strength. And yet the enemy hates me because I project strength. And yet I have this insignificance thing. Does my strength really matter? I have this temptation thing to settle for less than what God has. But then there's this third one, and this is a tough one. None of these are in order. The third one is rejection. I struggle with the king called rejection. Jesus said this. He said, and many will turn away from me and they'll betray and they'll hate each other. You know, when you sit in this seat, when you're a pastor, you have people that come and say, this is the greatest thing that's ever happened. This is awesome. And then, I don't know, time happens, life happens. And all of a sudden, you're their enemy. They hate you. They want to destroy you. They say all kind of horrible things about you. They've come to the church and it's changed their life. They met their mate in the church. Then they leave the church and they blame the church for everything that's wrong in their life. And as the leader, as the shepherd, as striving to be a good pastor, it tears my heart out. The natural side of me is I want to go kill somebody and beat somebody up. That's why I'm saying I'm not a good pastor, because I have those feelings. And I know Joel doesn't. Joel doesn't go, I want to beat you up right now. I'm like, I want to kick your right now. That's what I... Jesus said in Luke 6, love your enemies. It's hard for me. Do good to those who hate you. That's hard for me. Bless those who curse you. That's hard for me. Pray for those who spitefully use you. That's hard for me. We'd started our church. And I tried to tell everybody, we're not your mama's church. I mean, I tried to say that. I stood at my first membership and go, listen, I just want y'all to know we can have any speaker that we want in our church, but I'm not going to have this person, and this person. And our first membership class booed me. I go, because we're not going to be a TBN. We're not going to be this. We're not going to be your whatever you think church is, we're not going to be that. We're going to be a leadership culture. And people looked at me and went, no, wait a minute. People looked at me and went. So the first few years of our church, people would say, where's the Holy Spirit? What is leadership? What is leadership culture? We just want the presence of God. Why are you trying to teach this stuff? It makes me mad. And here's the voice of insignificance from the pastor when I was fired as a youth pastor. Don't try to teach people leadership. They'll hate you. Just play games. Just play along. So Joshua was about 14 years old. Joshua, that had been 2002, 2003, I don't know. 2001, we'd had our church for about a year, and Let me just tell you all the story. After I started the church, people that I'd known from the past came out of the woodwork. Man, we want to be with you. And one of those guys was the guy that I led to Christ in Sherman, Texas. He was the BMOC, the big man on campus, football player going to college on a football scholarship. And he got saved in my youth ministry as a senior. And man, we took over. I mean, our youth group grew. It was like he was the influencer. He was the guy. And God knitted our hearts. Scott Uncleback was in that group, and Scott was discipling Scott at that time, and we were all best friends. We were like the trifecta, and this guy was amazing. He decided to go to Bible school. We helped him get set up, on and on and on. He goes to Bible school. He meets a beautiful girl. They get married. They have children. They're living up in the Northwest. Years pass. He leaves the ministry, he gets in the IT world, does very well, 7-figure income, 6+ 7-figure income, is going great. All of a sudden, one day we're meeting over in Wilma Fisher, and we're in about our 4th year, and he comes walking through the door. I went, he goes, I'm back. I go, you're back? You're back. It really was. It was one of the greatest days of my life. It's like this was a Timothy. That's what the Bible calls it. Somebody that you lead to Christ. Somebody that you love. Somebody that's like a son to you. All of a sudden he's back. He said, I've moved my family here. We want to be with you. I want to be in this church. In one conversation, he said, I want to leave my job and be a pastor with you. I want to help you take this city for God. And I'm going, whoa, whoa, whoa. Man, I'm crying. Whoa, no. Listen, just be here. I need your money. I don't need you to be on staff with me. We got to buy land and we got to build buildings, so get rich. I was so happy. I was so happy. I was so happy. Then 4 months later, he comes to me, and he was in my green room, and he said, you know what, Keith? He said, man, I love you. And I go, I love you. And he goes, but this isn't for me. This isn't where I'm supposed to be. And I can't even tell you. I cannot even tell you. Because I wanted this guy with me in my life. And I don't blame him. I just struggle with rejection. So Josh is 14, we're driving along one day, and this is right after this is happening. He goes, Dad, what's wrong? And I go, and again, I wasn't trying to project anything that was wrong, but he goes, well, I could tell something's wrong, Dad. And I'd never talked to Josh or my kids about anything with the church, and I thought, hey, he's 14, maybe he can handle it. So I told him the story I just told you, and he's just sitting over there. He's 14, looking out the window as we're driving. And when I got through, there was just dead silence in the car. And after about 60 seconds, he goes, Dad, you know, some friends are for a reason. Some are for a season, and some are for a lifetime. Just let it go. And the Holy Spirit came in that car, and I started crying. I said, you see, Josh will be the pastor here someday. And son, that day, you spoke into the deepest places of my heart, and that's when I knew, hey, he's going to be with me, we're going to do this. And I struggle with rejection. I just want y'all to know that. It's a king in my life that I have to defeat for the promises that God has for me. Which leads to the next thing, and I promise this will be the only service like this. This is hard for me. You don't know how hard this is for me. But Whitney said, Dad, they need to hear this. So, it leads to the fourth thing, and the fourth thing in my life is discouragement. It's the weirdest thing, Sunday nights for me. No matter what happens here on Sunday nights for me are like, man. And then Mondays for me, I try to take Mondays off, but it's like, man. So what do I do on Mondays? I fast on Mondays and work out because I want to be strong. My friend Chris Hodges said last week, he said 50% of pastors would leave the ministry if they could do anything else. And I'm not one of those guys that has to do this because I can do a lot of other things. Again, my problem's not insecurity, my problem is insignificance. It's very different. I'm confident in myself, but I'm not sure that myself makes a difference. 70% of pastors deal with discouragement. I think it's probably more like 100%. And 90% of pastors, according to psychology, are lonely. Let me just let me tell you why I'm a little bit discouraged. And I shouldn't be. How many of y'all know when you feel stuff like this, that's what I say to myself. I say, I shouldn't be. And I'm Jim Carrey in the movie Liar, Liar. And he goes into the bathroom. And he takes the toilet lid and goes, somebody comes in and goes, what are you doing? And he says, I'm kicking my... Anyway, that's what I do to myself. I just want y'all to know that. I don't slam the toilet thing on me, but I guess I could try that. I walked in here Friday night. How glorious was it to see this place filled with women? It was glorious. All the way in the top rafters, jam-packed. Let me say something to you that is weird, just like everything I'm saying is weird. My wife does not live with a passion or a call to raise up great women. Listen to what I'm telling you. God uses her, it's amazing. But she is fine without any of this. It takes every bit of breath that she has, and yet she enjoys it and she's embraced it, but she does not live like I live. And here's how I live. I feel like that God has called me two primary things: leadership and men, and to raise up great men, and to raise up mighty men, and to raise up kings in the earth, and to raise up millionaires who will advance God's cause in the earth. And listen, please hear my heart on this, because this is not about you, it's about me, it's about my kings and about what I struggle with to get to the promise. And when I walk in here on Saturday morning with the men, and the floor is kind of full, and this middle section is kind of full, it flips me back to Sunday school. You see, I was raised in church. Every one of my Sunday school teachers was a woman, except in 7th grade. By the way, I don't want to say this, and please don't misunderstand this. I don't remember any of my female Sunday school teachers' names, but I remember David Bundrick. He was the man who spoke into my life as a little boy. And you see, insignificance and temptation and rejection and discouragement didn't start yesterday with me. It started early. And this guy was 6'7". God knew exactly what I needed. Now, I didn't quite make 6'7", but he used this big stature of a man to be my 7th grade Sunday school teacher. And he spoke life into me. And he said, you have a call of God on your life, and God's going to use you greatly. And I actually started believing him. I believe God's put a mandate on my life to raise up great men and great kings. And after 17 years, honestly, I'm just saying, this isn't about anybody in this room. This is about me. My discouragement is I go, God, where are the men? Where are the millionaires that are advancing God's cause? Where are they? And I'm going to tell you something. God will use women, and I love women in ministry. I love the fact, listen, I don't see it as this or that. I'm just telling you what I'm called to do. Every Ivy League college now is led by a woman. If men don't do it, women will do it. Catherine Kuhlman said this. She said, God called 2 men before he called me to do what I did. It doesn't mean that women are less. It just means women stand up and women make things happen. And I love that about women. And they have a womb and they birth things. And women that are called of God and they have the power of God through the womb that God has given them to birth things, they're very attracted to things like this because they see strength. Whereas men sometimes are not attracted to this because they see strength. So my struggle is, I know why the devil hates me so bad is because I project strength. And men who aren't about that, Lisa Bevere said it last night. She said, men who act like boys have women who act like men in their life. And so here I am, and by the way, let me just tell you this. You don't know this, so let me tell you. We are known around the world. Our church is honored around the world. In the highest places, we have honor. And you know one of the reasons we have honor? Because the perception is that we have one of the greatest men's ministry in the world. Because we actually have kings, and we actually have mighty men, and we actually have groups that in other words, there's the structures that are there. But here's what I'll tell you, and I think I'm going to start doing this. When I post on Instagram, I post these pictures that our team sends us. I'm going to start putting a postscript to say, it's not as good as it looks. My family's not as good as it looks. The church isn't as good as it looks. The men aren't as strong as we look. And basically, I suck a lot of times as a leader and as a pastor, and that's the truth. And so here's what I want to tell you. Joshua had 31 kings that he had to defeat to get to his promise. These are my ongoing battles, I want you to understand. And when I get up here and I come across strong, and when I get up here and I say things sometimes I shouldn't say, and when I get up here and I say something that maybe is offensive to you, know that I'm being offended with you. I'm saying what God is telling me to say, and it's as hard for me as it is for you. And you might sit there and go, oh man, I just want to be encouraged. That's why Joel comes on before me on Fox. He's on there before me. You're great, you're awesome. Then I come on. Listen, God's got a plan for you and you got to do something about it. God's got a future for you, but you got to go get it. Anyway, here's what I want to say to you. Once and for all, I want to be real with you to say, this is my struggle, because you can look up here and think sometimes he thinks he's all that, or they think they're all that, or they think they're family, or they think this, and it's so not true. I just want to be strong. And I want to be strong for God, and I want to be strong for you, but in and of myself, I'm not. So I need the word like Joshua needed the word. I need friends who will stand with me, and I need friends who will believe. I need some Reubens and some Gads and some Manassehs, and we need to be that for each other. And there needs to be a true prophetic Deborah in our midst that meets the need for an Ernest in our midst. You see, it's not a kidney she's given. Listen very carefully. It's what she has that's needed that's given. That's what makes women so great. Listen, women, you have no idea. Girls have always been my best friends. When I married Sheila, that had to stop. But I'm just telling you, I so admire women who get it and who understand that if they can birth a baby, God will use them to birth anything in the kingdom. Ladies, you got it going on. You're awesome. You're incredible. And God has called men. Listen, God has placed men in a position of prophet and priest and king for us to take dominion, for us to speak things that are not as though they were, for us to want to be strong and not to give in to the insecurity, the insignificance, the rejection, the temptation to be less than what God's called you to be. And finally, for me, and this is it, demonic attack. There's no way you can know, and I don't want you to know, but the kind of attacks that I get, that our family gets, that because of the seat that I sit in, the price that I've paid, the devil hates my guts. But the demonic is a reality. Let me say that again. The demonic is a reality. And I think everything that you're concerned about is a spiritual problem. Let me say that again. Let me ask you a question, first of all. Any of y'all got any concerns about something right now going on in your life? It's a spiritual thing. And there is a spiritual component. And I just want to encourage you today, because this is how I encourage myself. No weapon formed against you will prosper. Every tongue which rises against you in judgment, you shall condemn. That means God shall condemn. This is the heritage of the saints. Now, let me tell you what God didn't say. He didn't say that weapons would not form. He just said no weapons formed against you would prosper. There are some specific weapons that have been formed against me that I need very strong people around me that know my weakness, that know my struggle, and that'll say, you know what? We're with you, and you need that too. That's why in this church, when people are negative, when they're critical, when they're judgmental, when they're backbiters, they never quite fit in here. You know why? Because in this tribe, we're going to do life, love, joy, peace, kingdom, prosperity, success, and we're going to do it together. I want to end by saying this. For though we walk in the flesh, we do not war according to the flesh. For the weapons of our warfare are not carnal, but mighty through God to the pulling down of strongholds, casting down our reasonings, our arguments, anything that exalts itself against the knowledge of God. And then here's the strength part, bringing into captivity every thought to the obedience of Christ. Every day, y'all listen to me, every day I wake up and I wonder, does what I do matter? Is that person going to be with me? Do I get to do life with this person or that person? Every day I struggle with that stuff. I don't know what you struggle with, but here's what I can tell you. As your leader, I just, as a once and for all, via Whitney and the Holy Spirit, I just wanted to lay it out to you and tell you, when I'm up here and I seem all strong and I seem like I'm on the warpath and I'm telling this and I'm saying that, just know I'm saying that to me first. The Holy Spirit's speaking to me first. And if it helps you, I hope it does, because I need a lot of help, y'all. I need a lot of help. And you know what? You being here helps me. You being in this house helps me. You serving helps me. You being in small groups helps me. You helping me helps us, and me helping you helps us. And we advance God's kingdom together. So as your pastor, I just want to ask you to pray for me. I want to ask you to know that if you ever think I'm all that, please just try to remember, I'm striving to be strong, not because I'm strong. I'm striving to be strong because greater is he that's in me than he that's in this world. My little dog, London, she's 10 years old, and Mike Escobedo's a great veterinarian. He takes care of our bulldog, London. He recently, she's been whimpering in the night. I'm telling you, it tears my heart up. She'll go like, Sheila and I have never heard this. So we took her to the vet, and Mike x-rayed her, said she's got arthritis. She's 10 years old. The average age of a bulldog is 8 to 10 years old. She's 10, about to turn 11. The other day we were by ourselves. I said, London, come here. She comes over to me. I took her face in my hands. I said, let me tell you something. We are getting older. And I know your mom, Precious, says that we're not supposed to run and play anymore because that's going to be hard on you. But London, we're going to run and we're going to play and we're going to live like we're young until we take our last breath. And if we have to cry in the middle of the night because we pushed it during the day, let's push it during the day and let's rest at night. And all I can tell you is I told my dog that because I'm telling me that, and I'm telling you that. And until I take my last breath, I'm going to lift weights. Until I take my last breath, I'm going to be in the Word of God. Until I take my last breath, I'm going to fight insignificance. I'm going to fight temptation. I'm going to fight rejection. I'm going to fight discouragement. I'm going to fight the demons in hell that have been dispatched against me. And church, I want to fight for you, and I want us to fight together. That's all. Sheila, come on up here. And even though she talks old sometimes, like you were up here a minute ago talking about your joints and stuff and about running, I was back there going, quit saying that. She's amazing at 57. You got it going on.
I'll do squats. I'm doing squats.
Do squats. Anyway, we love y'all. I'm going to turn it over to them. I love you very much. Thank you for being here today. Thank you for bearing with me.
Well, I hope the word challenged you. You know, you may be seated. That's not an easy message to give because you have to be intimate. And you know, we just came out of that series, Into Me See. And so to be intimate, you have to really go inside, right? And just really evaluate yourself. And so even as his wife, it's hard for me to hear a message like that. I said, how are you going to give that message? You already given it to the mighty men. How are you going to give that in 3 services? Because it takes a lot out of him emotionally to do that. But you know what? He stands up here as your leader and encourages you in that. To know when you walk in these doors, we don't want you to walk in just feeling like, man, I just got to be strong. And all these people here, they're so strong. They got great marriages. Nobody ever has a problem. That's absolutely not the truth. We're all human and we all have struggles. We need to lock arms with each other. That's why we tell you to be involved and be a servant leader here. Be involved and get in a small group because that's the only way we can care for you. That's the only way we can know what you're going through and to say, hey, we're here for you. We're going to stand with you. We're going to pray with you because we go through the same challenges you go through. Just because we're leaders and we stand on this stage does not mean we don't ever have a struggle. We have lots of struggles, like Pastor Keith even talked about his own kings in his life. And if we can just challenge you in any way to get with somebody, a friend or your spouse, and to just even tell them one king, something that you struggle with, and just believe God that you're fighting those kings in your life and that you're speaking the word of God over your life and facing those battles that all of us face. And so hopefully that word challenged you today, encouraged you in the midst of it, even though it's a little bit weighty, it's a little bit heavy. You know what? It's a good word. It's a good word to know that we all need each other, right? We all need each other. We all need to stand with each other. So, and just know that you're loved.
Well, we're getting ready to take up our offering here in a second, but it's been a pretty powerful weekend here at the church. I think I don't know if you'd call it a turning point as much as a significant weekend in the life of our church. So if you're new here, or if this isn't your church, thanks for bearing with all of us. But those of you that are family of choice here, this is the opportunity that we have in the service to give, to return our first fruits to God, to give our offerings. We're in the middle of our quarterly campaign. Next weekend is Grow the Dream, and we're excited about what God's doing through our church. If you need an offering envelope, you can put your hand up and the ushers will get that to you. But thank you for your faithfulness and your giving, because this week we're meeting on Wednesday night after first fruit service to talk about launching a campus in the Salina Prosper area. And without your faithfulness in that, yeah, you can clap for that. Without your faithfulness in giving, we wouldn't be able to do that, or we wouldn't be able to do what we did this weekend, and that's help foster children throughout our state and throughout our community. We wouldn't be able to help in Canton, where over 50 people is it 50 people that have died, or five people that have died, and 50 people have gone to the hospital in Canton. And so we wouldn't be able to help. We just have an understanding as a church that whenever disasters happen, no matter how big they are, no matter how small they are, the trucks are rolling. So we're already involved in all the stuff that went on in Canton yesterday. Without you giving like in times like this in the service, we're not able to do that. So thank you as always for your faithfulness in your giving. And we can go ahead and take up the offering. But this weekend we start our Souls for Souls, which means we're gonna bring shoes for people that don't have shoes. So you can see collection bins that are available throughout the building where you can bring gently used shoes. We don't want you to bring your mowing shoes or shoes you should have thrown away 5 years ago. Don't bring shoes that you wouldn't wear to give to people that don't have shoes. But we're giving away shoes. We're sending shoes all over the world. There are going to be homeless people in America, people in Africa, people in South America, people all over the place that are in need of shoes. We want to send them some shoes. So,
and ladies, you can even bring your high heels, because a lot of those, they're going to take them and sell them. And then it just gives them actual money to be able to go purchase more shoes.
Yeah.
So it's not like there's any shoe that you couldn't give to them, because you think about people in other countries, they're not going to be necessarily walking in those high heels, but they want you to bring those in too, because they're able to sell them.
Yes, definitely. And so as you're able to do that, then what's going to happen is that's going to be throughout the rest of this month. So that's from this week until the end of May. So make sure you participate in that over the next couple weeks. And then one of the things that we want to specifically mention this weekend, obviously my dad called an audible, but it just so happens that this weekend is small group weekend here at the church. And we're getting ready to launch small groups this week. And we want to encourage you to do in your life what Pastor Keith did today. And that's be a person that's vulnerable. Be a person that's real about your life and that's authentic. And because you can see how much that's impacted those of us that are in this room, that were able to hear that. It really wasn't a message, it was more like a monologue. But those of us that were able to hear that today, how much that's impacted us, you don't know how much people will be impacted by your story. You don't know how great it would be for you to have those kind of relationships with people that won't judge you for who you are, won't look at you a different way for who you are, but that'll surround you. And that's what small groups are all about here at Elevate Life Church. It's not about hearing another message. It's not about learning some more Bible stuff. It really is about having relationships. And that's what small groups and servant leadership are about. But this week specifically is about small groups. And there's tables in the lobby that represent each one of the small groups that we're offering in this current trimester. And we just want to encourage you to be a part of that. Build some relationships here. Get plugged in. Get to know some people. Build, hopefully, lifelong friendships that you can have forever. And we're going to have a great week. It's a great day today. What a nice day. Enjoy this. Enjoy this before it gets about 150 degrees outside. But why don't you stand on your feet and put your hands up. We're going to bless you out.
And Pastor Keith and I will be in the lobby to meet our first-time guests.
Yes, ma'am. May the Lord bless you and may he keep you. May he make his face to shine upon you. May you know that if God is for you, then who can be against you? If God is on your side, then whom shall you fear? May you be like a tree that's planted by rivers of living water, that your leaf will not wither, and whatsoever you do, say with me, it shall prosper. Have a great week.